What was the wildest way you found out you were being cheated on? My entire friend group knew about it, and I only found out after the one real homie blackmailed her into admitting it. And when she did, it was the most insincere shit ever. It's no big deal, everyone else thinks it's okay, and stuff like that. Suffice to say, I got my ass out of that relationship and friendship group real quick. But how about that other homie? She didn't realize that her iPhone messages were also synchronized to her Mac, which I was using to stream movies on. I saw text popping up with her writing to her ex about how she loved taking his load on her face. I just packed up my shit and left. This same thing also ruined a relationship for me. I was watching Netflix on his laptop as he went to the library to do work. His messages start popping up about how he just saw the hottest girl with 10 out of 10 ass, tits, and face. How rare that was, and how he wishes that my body was different. All in a group chat to 3 of our friends. I just packed up and left as well. Her other boyfriend, who I didn't know existed, and I had a mutual friend who put 2 and 2 together and told me. I said I wanted to meet him, so he called him over. We talked out some things and then called her together at my suggestion. Good times were had by all minus one. Jesus, I would just assume that you were going to murder me. You're fucking her, eh? Why don't you come on over? I just wanna talk about some things. He was drunk at his 21st, and while joking around with his friends he started listing off all the women he'd slept with in the last year. I was standing right there, and we'd been dating for 2 years at that point. You win. I ain't never been that drunk in my life. He apparently wrote an address wrong, and the love letter he wrote was returned to our home. It was a great way to come back from vacation. Who puts a return address on an illicit love letter? What a moron. One of her friends was a photographer and wanted to do tasteful nudes, which apparently includes penetration. And multiple days of getting the right shot. We had a shared Google Drive, which her friend didn't know we shared. Apparently she forgot too. She demanded to read all the messages on my phone. I said no problem, but only if I could read the messages on hers. She had forgotten to delete a message from a guy saying, "All we ever do is fuck. Can't we hang out sometime?" There was nothing on my phone. This was exactly how I found out my ex-boyfriend was sexting other girls. He found nothing on my phone because there was nothing to find. He had a whole message thread making up plans to fuck some other chick. I've never seen anyone cry so hard as fast as he did. My 9-year-old son told me that there were strange men in the house when I was away working. She'd been at it for years. It's horrible to deal with at the time, but honestly, it's such a relief to be rid of such a toxic mess. Little boys got your back. Date night canceled day of. I decided to make it a guy's night to see the new Marvel movie at the time. As we entered, I saw her sitting at the theater snuggling up with a guy. Our seats were a few rows back, saw them kiss a couple times. When we all left at the end of the movie, they were exiting their aisle as we walked down the stairs. She absolutely froze when she saw me. Blocked her on everything while I'm in parking lot. How was the movie? I was visiting a dying relative in hospital, so could not attend some stupid college party he and his roommate organized. I told him I couldn't go and asked him if he could come over later, after visiting hours in the hospital, because I knew my relative would die soon and I really just needed someone to be there with me. He said he probably wouldn't be able to, as he needed to help his roommate with party preparations, but would come over later if they finish early. Next day I saw pictures of him with his ex in his lap, kissing, uploaded the previous night by his roommate. The roommate even knew we were dating. He was just too drunk to realize he added me as a friend a week earlier on Facebook and I would see the pictures. Jesus, hope you are better, RN. He's a real asshole. Not me, but my dad. His girlfriend at the time had been cheating on him with his friend, who didn't know they were in a relationship. My dad found out when his friend told him he was gonna propose to her. Now that's wild. Are they still friends? Too recent to relive, but here's how it went. Got a random text on Insta asking if I am up, and new ex responded saying yes. She literally replied saying, "Congrats, your girlfriend is sleeping with my boyfriend," followed by a barrage of screenshots she had gotten from her boyfriend's phone. I found out because my now ex-wife's affair partner's wife called me. My ex had been sleeping with a married man, always said she was a lesbian, but he had a breakdown when my wife cheated on him with his, also male, best friend. So he told his wife, who messaged me on Facebook, then called me, sent the screenshots and told me everything. Ex ruined 3 marriages all at once. Takes a long time. But eventually you realize you deserve better. Not really wild, but my ex-wife and I owned a small business together. One day I noticed a strange email address on the office computer. Her first name and a different last name. I realized that email was still logged in, so I took a peek. I found 2 years worth of emails between my ex and some dude she dated before me. So I printed out every email and had it bound in a binder ready to present to my divorce lawyer. What happened to the business? Wife, soon to be ex, was in rehab and started fucking someone. She got out and told me she was going to a meeting. Suddenly, I remembered I could track her car cause I pay for the Lexus Inform app. She was at a hotel. Somehow lying about going to a meeting for recovery seems extra shitty. Broke up with me, and as I was going though deleting her socials, I noticed a post she made on her Snap story that was her and a guy with a post saying, "With my king." Post was made 2 hours ago and had only broke up an hour ago. With my king, lol, ew. People actually talk like that unironically? Came home off a deployment. Now, ex-wife was acting really weird, but I figured it was because I had been gone for a year and everything was just taking time to get reacquainted. About 3 days after I returned, I had a notice from my unit stating my vehicle had 3 tickets at another base. We were in Germany, a few hours away in the past few months. When I went in to find out what the deal was, all 3 had photos attached to them for speeding through a checkpoint. All 3 had my wife and some other guy. She was kissing him in the 3rd pic. He was driving my car. The fucking gall. Glad you got photo evidence delivered right to you though. My birthday I was with my GF and I passed out early since I had a long ass shift that day, and I had to drive 2h to get to her place. Woke up in the middle of the night, went outside to get a smoke, saw her fucking her ex in his car on the parking lot. How did she react when she saw you? My old barbershop. Was talking to my barber about her, and one of the other barbers overheard. We ended up finding out it was the same chick. Feels like the second act of a Broadway musical set in the 50s. I was out with this girl I'd been with a few months. Went to a nice restaurant for dinner and stopped at a local dive later to hang with mutual friends and coworkers. I went into the men's room later to see her legs under a stall and heard a coworker's voice saying, "Suck that dick." Left the bathroom, went directly to bartender and had her split our check and paid mine and bounced like fucking Tigger. Game over. My dumb ass loved her. T.I. double fuck her. Was married. It happened a week or so after my 2 weeks R&R, was in the middle of a 12-month deployment to Iraq. Long story short, I hadn't cheated on her, but I sure as hell got diagnosed with a STD a week or so after I returned back to Iraq. We finalized our divorce a couple of months later while I was still deployed. Happened to my cousin too. Came back from deployment, got a STD and confronted wife about it. She confessed to sleeping with multiple men. I knew he was doomed when he called to tell me he was getting married and joining the army in the same sentence. He sent me a pic of the dog while I was away with a text that said, "Look how cute she looks." Like 3 weeks later I went back to the photo to show a friend, and upon looking at the photo again I noticed a pair of women's boots in the background by the door. Must sting to be hooking up with someone and have them be like, "Hold on, I need to get a picture of this, my wife will love it." He sent me a photo of some girl sucking his dick at the party he was at. On Valentine's Day. After canceling his plans with me. Guess he that girl problem now. He told on himself. He randomly called me saying why I messaged his ex, and I was super confused because I never did, and told him it's a misunderstanding, I can reach out to her to explain it's not me. He got super defensive and threatened if I reached out to her we're done. I found it odd and reached out to clear my name, and she spilled saying he's been cheating on me as well as playing her and multiple other girls all at the same time. Turns out one of the girls made a fake account of me and reached out to her. Never found out who it was, but this is the one time I'm glad having a stalker worked in my favor, otherwise I would have never known, haha. My colleague had an elaborate wedding, cathedral ceremony, hundreds of guests, to a guy she'd been with for years. She found out shortly afterwards he'd been cheating because they met this girl, who was his colleague and gym buddy. When they were walking in the park, and their 2 French bulldogs, who were noisy and protective, didn't bark at her at all. There was no reason for her to have met the dogs before, as she had never been to their house to her knowledge. So she snooped on his phone while he was asleep, and apparently he had been cheating for over a year and she was pregnant, and they were opening a business together and he was leaving as soon as he had the whole thing set up. When the dust settled, the only thing she was pissed off about was the expense they and her parents had spent on the wedding. He could have called the whole thing off and saved thousands. She didn't learn though. Her second wedding was nearly as elaborate. That's some Sherlock Holmes level reasoning. We broke up, and then her best friend and best friend's husband told me that night. She had been fucking a few different people but settled on one. They got married, had kids, then she cheated on him with me one night years later. I didn't know they were together. They divorced, she remarried, got divorced, and now she is on husband number 3. My favorite part is she portrays herself as an amazing Christian woman that is better than everyone because she is so Christian. She's taking "love thy neighbor" way too literally. I was out at a bar with some friends when I started talking to the people next to me. They were wearing our town's local social sports club shirt, so I asked them if they knew my wife, who was in the club. They responded with, "Yeah, I know her. I hear she is cheating on her douchebag husband." I then reply, I am her husband, and ran out the bar crying. This is the worst one I've read so far. Hope you're okay, man.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe and watch our other videos.